Alright guys, welcome back to VALORANT News. The regular season is just about to get underway and big questions raised as to which teams are still the best in their respective regions. Sentinels say that when they were over there in EMEA for Masters Madrid, they practiced against many teams. Of course, they've played against many teams in the Americas and at the Madrid tournament over the last couple of weeks. They still say though that in terms of scrims, JohnQT believes Fnatic were the strongest opposition they played and still potentially the team that Sentinels still need to beat in global VALORANT. Very much enjoy your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. First of all, some questions yesterday on whether Viper received a silent nerf. So I'll just show you guys this. The full gas, the Viper Whirl or the Orb now seems to only last 13 seconds, whereas it's meant to be 15 seconds. So here goes a clip that was going around yesterday of the Viper Orb going up, of course the smoke, and then as we see by the end of the time, we get to pretty much 13 seconds and then it disappears. So it was like, damn, this is a pretty big nerf, pretty big deal, right, for them to nerf without telling us anything, but maybe that's not the case because there's been some discussion done on this and it seems to be that it's not exactly a Mandela effect thing, but there's some activation and deactivation time. You can account for pretty much 1.5 seconds of time it takes to activate the orb and then time it takes to deactivate the orb when it disappears at the end. So when you take that into account and you look at all the patch updates in recent times, it doesn't seem like anything has changed here. So there's some debate on whether it's changed or not. Maybe you guys go test out yourselves, but the feeling is that probably nothing is actually happening here and it still is what it used to be at just over 14 seconds. So pretty much 15 rather than under 13. Many people would be like, yeah, fantastic, get Viper with a more significant nerf. But of course, this opens the door. Even if this hasn't happened, Clove seems like a potentially viable agent. Tens, we're going to see some more thoughts from him on that agent here in a couple of minutes time because he definitely believes they might well be viable coming into competitive play this year, especially if Viper has had a silent nerf, which I'm not really so sure that she has. But we've got to talk about some of the results in challenges. Xander and the M80 boys, they've started off as expected. They actually say their Ascent comp threw us off, but of course got the win in the end. So these were the games over the last couple of days. M80 versus Sad Esports, relatively clean 2-0. Xander dropped 50, by the way, over Icebox and then Ascent. As we see, interesting composition here with the Gecko, the Yoru, and all sorts of stuff. But in the end, they got the win 13-10. Xander had 31 frags on the Omen. So you know, this team is so good. They'll be so hard to stop this year in challenges. There's a few other contenders. Together We Are Terrific have been doing well as well. They've obviously changed a few things around. Will joined their roster not that long ago, I'm pretty sure. But they get a 2-0, close 2-0, but a 2-0 nonetheless against YFB Gaming. 13-8, 13-10 on the Ascent in the Sunset. So relatively comfortable, all things considered. We then had Oxygen Esports. They took down the Thinking Men. These are the favourites by some way. It's like when you look at challenges, lots of the results do feel like foregone conclusions, really, especially in the regular season. I'm just looking forward to what happens when we get to the playoffs and we get to certainly Ascension itself, because Oxygen 13-7, 13-3 in the end. Redux had a monster series here. I think he was tweeting about it as well. Yeah, here we go. Player of the day for day 2 was, Redux, absolutely no doubt about it. He completely fried. Some of these guys have got to be in the conversation for the pro teams or for the tier 1 teams, the franchise teams, as and when the time comes for them to consider changes. But, you know, as I've said before, if you are going to make a change as a top team and you're going to try and get a guy like Redux or Verno or somebody else from Oxygen, they aren't going to want to give those players up because those players are their ticket, ideally, theoretically, through Ascension into the franchise league itself. QOR, they go down 2-0 to Moist Chubify. This was slightly more interesting on the binds. It was 13-11 in the end. MXS looked like they were going to go down and it was going to go to Breeze. Then they decided to lock in and they won 5 straight to win the game. The Icebox, though, was not pretty, so brace yourself for this. I guess it could have been worse, but it was 13-2, and QOR couldn't get a kill to save their life. So those are the top teams in the Challenger size. This is how it presently looks. M80 are 2-0. We've got Moist Chubify at 2-0. Together We Are Terrific. That's 2-0. Oxygen are 1-1, but they already played Moist, right? So they lost last week, and it doesn't seem like this is going to change anytime soon. So good practice for these teams. Obviously, we've got more games coming up. I'll show you guys here over the next couple of weekends, and then we get into the mid-season cups and beyond. But with challenges now well underway, we do also have the actual VCT Pro League finally returning. It's been a very long time since some of these players players have even played. If you didn't qualify for the World Championship, obviously you played in the kickoffs, but quite often the kickoffs, ended quite quickly for many of these teams. And if they didn't make the champs last year, many of these players have sat on the sidelines for a very long period of time. Teams like Sentinels, they grinded a lot during the off-season, played many tournaments, their own tournaments, the Africa TV tournaments. Some teams did not. Some teams bode their time a little bit longer, such as Evil Geniuses, for example, and they finally formed a team in the end, and they looked pretty good. They made it to the playoffs at the kickoff, but they went down in the end to Loud as they crashed out of the tournament. This I also thought was crazy, right? When I saw this, I was like, yeah, no way this is real. It's got to be photoshopped. But, and look, I haven't gone on to bind myself to confirm this is true, but I'm pretty sure this is actually going to be happening. Now, we know that Riot have been very friendly, let's say, with Sentinels and the whole pushing the whole bundle thing, and it makes sense because Riot stand to profit just as much as Xelsis and Sentinels do. But as we see here, Bind seems to be receiving an interesting change with the upcoming update, and this part of the map here will, I don't know, are people going to start calling it the Xelsis, I think, or just Xelsis or something like that? It's quite possible because often spots on certain maps in many games over history have been known by names of players that are associated with them. This could be another idea. Not sure how long it's going to be there, but yeah, Xelsis replies, I'm calling this spot Xelsis forever, please buy the bundle. So you just can't make some of this stuff up. Other teams have to work harder though, right? Because at the end of the day, Xelsis is just tweeting about this and he's getting all the interactions for free. G2 are putting their bundle at Times Square, but I imagine it wasn't exactly cheap to make that one happen. I don't know what the current conversion rate is on this, but the conversion rate is probably better for them tweeting out about that they've put it on the billboards than it is from the actual billboard itself. But, you know, each of their own, and as we see Xelsis into the masterclass here from Launders, went to an art museum, and then, you know, bang, Xelsis is like, hey, can you Photoshop this with the SEN bundle? And then everybody is making SEN bundle ads for free. So you've got to respect, like, how, you know, commendable what Xelsis is doing is. But of course, the boys, it's not just about selling bundles, it's about winning events as well. They went to Masters Madrid, they got the job done, they beat everyone they needed to beat. The best team in the Pacific, they took them down. They obviously beat PaperX as well. They beat Gen.G, so that's comfortable. They're better than Louds right now. Nobody denies that after the recent results. They are second best team theoretically in the Americas. And even if Louds aren't the second best team in the Americas and it's actually NRG, well, Sentinels beat them as well at the kickoff, even if it's somehow Lev, which seems unlikely on recent scrimbucks, but even if it is, then they beat them as well. So Sentinels best team in the Americas, they're better than anybody right now in the Pacific, at least in a grand finals result. We know that Gen.G, they also beat Sentinels earlier on, but when it came to grand finals, best of 5, pressure on that type of circumstance, Sentinels just had too much firepower and, honestly, too much experience, you could argue, at that kind of level on that stage. And EMEA, they played Heretics and they played Carmine Corp, and they beat both of those teams. They haven't played Edwards, but, you know, Edwards and generally the Chinese region as it stands are not as strong as they need to be. Edward got crushed out of the tournament, of course, by Louds, as you may well remember. The only team, therefore, that we don't really have in this conversation right now is Fnatic, because DRX as well, to some extent, they didn't make it to Masters Madrid either. But of the EMEA teams especially, Fnatic were the team in that region over the last couple of years, and that seemed set to continue. They lost, however, to Carmine Corp in a very surprising fashion. KC absolutely outplayed them. They deserve to go to Masters Madrid. But young team, not so much experience on that team. I think it was expected that they didn't quite maintain that level when they got to the event itself. Fnatic may well have done. And JohnQT says that when they scrimmed teams at Madrid in the rest of the EMEA region, they felt like, yeah, Fnatic might still be the team to beat here.
Who was the best team in scrims? No, we didn't scrim. The only franchise team... The only franchise team we scrimmed are sorry, not franchise. The only team we scrimmed that was in the tournament was FPX, and it only was one map. Scrimmed them on bind. I think the best scrim we've had was Fnatic, probably, but we didn't scrim them much. I think we scrimmed them like twice. I don't know. We actually didn't scrim much. Like there was actually, did we? We scrimmed. I think we scrimmed like 30 scrims, maybe. I don't know. And our schedule was so packed. We had 3 content days that just fucked our scrims. The people on the team call you John. Oh, they call me by my first name. I mean,
it is a good sign that I am playing Clove in ranked and I'm winning, or I feel like I'm contributing. And not because of my aim alone, but because of the character. But it's because of smokes. Whereas when ISO came out and I was playing it, I was winning a lot, but it didn't feel like I was winning because of the character. I was just winning because I was just out aiming everyone. And then at that point, I was just like, "What? This character sucks." It does suck. But with Clove, I'm trying them out, and it feels good. It feels good to play for sure. Definitely is the most fun controller to play in ranked. This character definitely 10 out of 10 release. Actually fun to play. You think Clove will be used in pro? I will be playing Clove in pro. You know what I'm gonna do? First day of practice, I'm gonna say you Kaplan and just instant lock Clove.
So JohnQT says, yeah, there wasn't like a crazy sample size in play. They didn't play Fnatic every day or anything, but it makes sense, you know. You go to the region, you're going to play teams that you're not going to play. You're not going to practice against KC. You're not going to practice against Heretics if you're Sentinels, knowing you play them in the very first round. And potentially while they're still in the tournament, that could continue. So, but Fnatic were in a great position in the same way, really, that last year at the World Championship in LA, it was a great opportunity for those that didn't qualify to get some practice in. That's how Sentinels found this team. They trialed JohnQT during that period when the World Championship was on in LA. They could practice against all of the teams that were there at Champions and test out their roster against that level of competition. Fnatic were in a great position to effectively do a similar thing, right? Now they know how good they are, but they get the good practice quality of all of the best teams in the world coming to Madrid and playing in their region. So Fnatic get to play all of those guys and improve and learn. And yeah, JohnQT reckons that Fnatic, of the teams that they practiced against, were still the best scrim partners that they had. So how will Fnatic perform when the regular season gets underway? Because they were in an interesting position in it, because they were the #1 seed, they only needed to beat Vitality to get through the kickoffs into the playoffs. They then played one playoff game and they lost it to KC in pretty infamous fashion now, and that was it, right? GG's, you're out of the playoffs, no chance to go to Masters Madrid, and they will now look to bounce back at the start of the regular season. So still feels to me that until proven otherwise, Fnatic are no doubt going to be a force still in global Valorant. They've still got the players. You know, they lost one series in months. Although, sure, they did bow out of the World Championship in rather underwhelming fashion. This is how things stand. So it's only a few days away, and they play Heretics Game 1. So that'll be very fascinating, right? Because Heretics, they qualified and were second best in EMEA after the EMEA kickoff, and now they play Fnatic in a few days. So, yeah, Fnatic can win this one. They can really start to assert themselves once again as the team to beat in that particular region, and probably, you know, for Shanghai, certainly for the World Championship, I would expect them to be there, and then we get to see some battles between those respective teams. Maybe that's going to involve Clove as well. That's only what TenZ implies, that he does reckon, because I said this yesterday, right, that when ISO came out, when Deadlock came out, other agents like this, TenZ is going to play them in ranked, and then he's going to see how he feels. His results are almost always going to be good, but his feeling was that Clove, he was actually being impactful rather than just hitting headshots, right? And the agent was actually being useful. So that is a strong indication that Clove might well be a viable option when the season properly gets underway. But very much interested in your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.